Coach Cam and the professor back again for Wildcard weekend in the NFL. If you are amongst us in the South, we're currently braving blizzard-like conditions in order to bring you this content. Um, just kidding. It's snowing like a little bit up here. Is it snowing where you're at?
Not anymore. It was snowing
Yeah.
probably up until about like noonish.
I'm supposed to get like 5 inches, 5 to 7 inches up here. So it's still going
That's a
strong. I
lot.
mean, it's definitely still snowing. So I'm
We're,
I'm in a panic a little bit with my Georgia bones.
we probably
Um,
got about 2 to 3, which is a ton.
yeah, that's a ton, and I'm getting twice that. So we'll see. We'll see how I handle it going forward. As long as I have power, I'm cool because I've got my frozen foods and stuff. And I had to go to the grocery store the other day, and it was like COVID all over again. Just there's no eggs, there's no milk. People are taking paper towels, but I don't get it. But I got everything I need here, so hopefully I survive. This week is going to be a little bit different in terms of how we bring you the content. Generally, we kind of pick a few games and a few props to give you our plays for, like our best bets, basically, of the week. For this, I think we're going to go game by game. We're kind of going to play it like we do college football. We'll go game by game and kind of give our thoughts on the game and then give a play for the game line itself. We'll do that for all 6. And then after that, we'll probably give our best 3 player props amongst those games. And as usual, we will do a touchdown. An anytime touchdown, that's going to be a high value pick for us. That should be how it plays out. So it might take a little bit longer than normal. It's also going to take a little bit longer because my intro was a little bit longer than normal, but it should still be under the 30-minute mark, I would think. Last week, quick recap, 2-1 on games for me. Texans won, and the Broncos hit the over on their point total. Bengals got in the red zone 4 different times, but could not amount to enough points to clear that 23.5 mark. So 2-1 there. 1-2 on props. Burrow got to 277, I believe. So he was competitive, but the line was like 290. So we were a little short there. And Sam Darnold was absolutely awful. So he did not hit his over. Bo Nix saved me, though. He hit his pretty easily and a pretty strong performance leading into the playoffs, I think. Touchdown was Josh Dobbs. He had a very uneven performance, but he scored a rushing touchdown, so I don't care about the rest. So great job, Josh. Great game. How'd it go for you?
1-2 on game lines. Seahawks -6.5. They couldn't convert a 2-point conversion that would have hit. So
Yeah.
they didn't hit the 6.5. Chargers -4 hit though. They won like 34-20. It was the Raiders. I don't know why the spread was so low, to be honest. It ended up going up later in the week. I don't know why it was so low at that point though. And then Bucks over 28.5. They couldn't do anything in the first half, which, gave us Falcons fans hope. And then they just ripped it away at the end. And they ended up scoring 27 points. So they were about 2 points away and still eliminated the Falcons. So, didn't really help us at all there. Player props, 2-1. Brian Thomas Jr. over 78.5. He had like 114, something like that.
He had a great day, yeah.
Yeah, everyone loves to talk about Neighbors and Bowers and Bucky Irving, and for good reason. But he's kind of flown under the radar and it's quietly led all of them in receiving yards.
That dude's good. That's a wide receiver 1.
Okay, he's a dog. And then Sutton over 79.5. When Bo Nix throws for like 350, he's going to get some of it. I swear he's a consistent 5 catches, 80 yards every game. That's all he does.
The Sutton over has been my favorite play this entire year.
And then Kyler Murray over 32.5 rushing yards. He needed 50 for a incentive, and he only got like 22. I think he was just kind of like, I don't want to get hurt. He didn't really run the ball that much. And he also needed a touchdown for it and didn't even score a touchdown. So kind of sold on like over $1 million there. And then anytime touchdown actually legitimately like hit within probably 2 minutes of the game starting.
You texted me quick.
The Colts scored on their first possession, and it was a bomb to Alec Pierce. So, yeah, he scored like it was like kickoffs usually around like, 105, 107, something like that. Mm-hmm. and I think I texted Cam at 110.
Yeah.
It
No,
was so quick.
I told you, dude, the Jaguars blow coverages just for fun. So like I thought that was a great play. I put that one in. When you said it, I was like, I'm putting that in too. So like you helped me make money as well. No, that's just what they do. They're good for 2 or 3 of those per game, regardless of the competition.
And I knew Joe Flacco was going to sling it.
For sure. His last game, yeah. Doesn't know if he's going to play again next year. Or at least start.
Yeah.
He'd have a hard time starting. All right. So let's just go. We'll go game by game. And I guess I'll just go in chronological order, if you don't mind. So we'll start with the Chargers and the Texans. Texans at home here. I don't have the lines up with me, but
Believe
I can pull them up.
spread is 3.
Yep, I've got a Chargers
And
-3 over under 42.5.
low. Very low. But I mean, for good reason.
Yes. Initially for me, it's a Chargers lean. The if the Chargers were at home, it's like a no-brainer. Texans generally play a lot better at home than they play on the road. So I'm obviously expecting a more competitive game from that standpoint. The Texans also play really good defense at home, which is why I think the line kind of is where it is. The Chargers also, home or away, the Chargers have a great defense. I haven't been a fan of how CJ Stroud's been protected the entire year, and the Chargers pass rush is diabolical. So to me, that's a red flag. So I have a prop lean on that one, but I'll probably talk about the prop lean because it's not one of my official plays, but I am going to lean towards it. I'll go over that one at the end. I just think based off of the pass rush and being able to, they don't defend the interior well at all, so it's going to be hard, or they don't protect the interior at all either, so it's going to be hard for Mixon to get going. You can see like the last however many weeks, Mixon's been like more of a non-factor in their games, and it's been a lot more on Stroud's because all parts of their offensive line have not been good. And I just think the trenches is always a battle where it's like, if you win that battle, I mean, you talk about like keys to games, it's almost always revolving around the trenches. And especially from a defensive standpoint, Chargers defensive line versus Texans offensive line, I don't think it's particularly close. There is a massive advantage for that one. So for me, my play, like my safe play, I'm leaning under. I think the line's perfect. So,
Yeah.
if I had to lean that way, I would lean under. But I think my safe play is going to be the Chargers -3. I think I'm going to have the Chargers win this game.
I got the same thing.
Okay.
Chargers -3. What I did is I do think it's going to be low scoring. So I was like, okay, it's gonna come down to the few times that the teams are in the red zone. Who's more efficient? The Chargers defense is, I believe, like second or third in red zone efficiency, and the Texans is like middle of the pack. And then the Chargers offense is about slightly above average in red zone efficiency. And then the Texans defense or offense is like probably slightly below average in red zone efficiency. So I was like, okay, these teams are probably going to get to the red zone and combine like 5-6 times all game. It's who gets in the end zone and doesn't have to settle for a field goal. So that's why I'm going to go with Chargers spread.
The other part that made it a little bit tougher, Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer both haven't practiced. I think Johnston might end up playing, but Josh Palmer's definitely not going to play. So Ladd's going to be. I don't know if Stingley shadows, but if he does, he's the second best cover corner in the game, and Ladd is the number 1 target. So if there's no Johnston or Palmer to like kind of spread the ball out a little bit, it's a tough assignment for Ladd to win. I think he'll win some of it, but that would be another thing to kind of limit the points being scored in the game. So that's another lean towards the under. Still think the Chargers have, to me, it's the Chargers defense. I think Stroud struggles. I don't think Stroud has a great game. So that's my other lean on props is the CJ Stroud under passing yards. I think he's going to have a tough time. He's got one good player that he can throw to. He can get to Mixon out of the backfield, but they cover running backs extremely well because they have two fantastic linebackers and edge rushers. I just think it's a tough assignment for the Texans offense. So for me, I've got an ugly, lower scoring game that the Chargers are better suited to win.
I got like 22-17.
That would hit the under.
Yep, it's gonna be a low scoring defensive battle. Just depends on
I
who
hate the
scores in the red
line.
zone.
I wish it would have been like, because you got Herbert, who historically puts points, like the Chargers historically put points up this year. Like there's like 24 to 27 points. I was hoping to get like especially with the spread being at only 3, I was hoping to get like a 47, in which case I would have felt really good about taking it.
Yeah.
But you can sneak 44 points in a game. It can be 24-21. You can sneak an over
I mean,
there.
yeah,
So.
it happened in college football last night. The game was
Exactly.
trending towards the under, and then all of a sudden.
And under was my lean there too for that game. I'm glad I didn't put it in, but I also put in Penn State to win, so I freaking lost anyways. I guess it didn't matter.
Yeah, I had Notre Dame money line, and then also had their team total under 23.5 though. So that did not hit.
Bummer. Bummer. All right, let's. You got anything else on this one before we move on?
Nope.
All right, let's go to the Steelers and Ravens. Lines are Steelers. Okay, so
It's
Ravens,
9.5, I believe.
Yeah, Ravens favored by 9.5. Your over under is 43.5. That is mean. 9.5 is, it's like almost disrespectful.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin coach team.
Yeah, but this Mike Tomlin coach team just got blown out 34-17 the last time they played.
So
that's the one thing.
I've got right. So I've got a couple things on this one. All right, when Tomlin has less time to prep, he's bad. The Steelers end up being bad. So that was one of the things. Steelers had less time to prep. They didn't have like a rest advantage. So if it's like an even, or the Steelers have time to rest, Tomlin generally does a better job of preparing teams for games. So I don't think they would lose by 17 again. That's I just don't see that happening. 17's a lot, especially when you just saw them. Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to, blow them out again, especially in a playoff scenario. Like I get the Ravens are going to be at home, and I don't think the Steelers win this game. They're not trending in the right direction going into it. They've had some real troubles on offense. Russell Wilson hasn't looked good. Even getting Pickens back, I thought getting Pickens back would like make the difference. He's been a non-factor. So offensively, I think that's my biggest concern is the Steelers' offense. I think the Steelers can do enough to keep it competitive from a defensive side. Historically, they do a good job against Lamar. Historically, they contain him pretty well, and they're generally pretty good against mobile quarterbacks. So I think defensively, they can do enough to make it an uglier game to where it's not a blowout. But my number one concern is, how do the Steelers score if they haven't been able to do so in 5 or 6 weeks now? I mean, the offense has just been anemic, and it doesn't matter who they have in there. It hasn't really mattered. I've got 2 plays. They're both leans. They're both like 1-unit plays for me. I'm not completely sold on this game. So I'm going to let you go first on your play, and then I'm going to give both mine, and then I'm going to go the one that I'm leaning towards more.
I have a feeling one of mine is one of your plays. Because I think there's going to be one constant in this game. The Ravens defense has been good recently, and then the Pittsburgh defense is always good, but they got kind of exposed by the Ravens last time. And the Ravens offense has been good all year, except the first time they played the Steelers, they got exposed, kind of. But there's one constant. The Steelers offense will not be able to score. They have scored 18 points the first time they played on 6 field goals, and then 17 points the next time. Their team total splits that, 17.5. And I think with the Ravens defense playing its best ball and it being the playoffs, I think I have the under 17.5 Pittsburgh team total.
I like that. I also think that's going to happen. I am going to... All right, I'm going to make a small adjustment, and I'm going to go under 44.5 game. Everyone goes under. Zay Flowers isn't playing. So Lamar's missing his number one receiver, his number one target. It's going to be more on Rashad Bateman and Aguilar. I don't know. I don't
Mark
even know their
Andrews.
number. Yeah, Mark Andrews, who I also have in a prop coming up. So there we have that as well. But I think without Flowers to like spread the defense out, I really think the Steelers can key in on like certain guys and limit some yardage. And they will have the ability to put someone on Lamar to keep him kind of contained. Just less options less people for him to go to. I think it becomes more of a Derrick Henry centered game, which would also kind of play towards the Steelers because they defend the run up the middle fairly well. They've got an all-pro defensive tackle in there that kind of helps with that. So I think the under 40. I historically Ravens Steelers games are like kind of ugly, low-scoring games. Like that 34-17 to me was like an outlier. You don't normally see the games between them go like that.
I think the under had hit in like like in the last 9 out of 10 games going into that game.
So I'm gonna go back to statistics and just kind of view like that game happened, but it wasn't like it just wasn't the norm. It was definitely like on the other side of the standard of deviation. So I'm going to go under 44.5. And let me make sure I put yours in. I also think the Steelers don't score. So like your play is, what is it?
17.5. They literally split their point total against it's the average of their point total.
My worry is they score like 17 exactly and it's a sweat.
I mean, that's probably what's going to happen.
But you win. So like if it was like 20.5, I'm like they don't score 3 touchdowns. There's no way they score 3 touchdowns. But 17.5, I bet they score like 17 exactly.
I just know Boswell's going to kick. Boswell's going to kick like 8 field goals. Just bang 18. All of them. Yes, bang all of them.
Yeah. That would be betting in a nutshell right there. That's what that would. Bet safely, kids. All right. Anything else on this one?
Nope.
We'll slide over to Broncos and the Bills. Broncos. See, like I had to deep dive this one because, like, first glance, I saw Bills at like -8.5, and I was like, Bills. But I'm like, you know what? Let's do our due diligence and just make sure. Over under is at 47.5, so a little bit higher scoring projected than the other 2 games. What do you have on this one? I'll let you go first.
I am going to take the Broncos +9. I got it at -115. It was right there. So that's what I'm going to do. I think it's going to be closer than expected. Bo Nix is playing really well. And this Broncos defense is no slouch. Like, they defend the run well. And there you got Patrick Surtain as well. So, I mean, it's going to be a tough game. So I have +9. And I can also see, like, some, like, backdoor cover, too, as well. With it being, like, it's like 37, like 24. And then they score a touchdown to make it 37-31. But they was already over then, but something like that. But I have Broncos +9. I think it's a too high game for a playoff game.
And that's like I kind of felt the same about the Steelers game too. Like seeing it at like 9.5, and I was like, it's a playoff game. Like I don't know. And I agree with you. I had Broncos +9.5. I saw it at -125. We can audible up to mine, or we can take yours at +9.
I had 9.5 written down because on mine, for some odd reason, 9 and 9.5 were the same value at -115. So I put in 9.5, but like with the spread being 8.5, I was like, I'll go 9 for the podcast.
Awesome. All right, so we'll keep that as it's a push, anyways. If we somehow tie it, so we do have the same play there.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna like. It's going to take me some convincing. Like, if you put any of these play out, like Wildcard, and dude, Wildcard's more than any of the other rounds is where the upsets happen. Like, there's like, it's like a 25 or 30, it's like a 33% chance or something that an upset happens in one of these. And so, like, and sometimes it's the ones that are like, these are just not nice lines, like 10.5, 9.5. It's like, well, this is the playoffs, dude. And like, I still think the Bills win this game. I think home field advantage for the Bills more so than any other team, except maybe the Chiefs, makes the difference. The Bills playing there is not fun. Now the Broncos can handle some cold weather, so I'm not super worried about that. You know, they play in the mountains and it's hard to breathe over there, so I feel like they're actually going to be okay from that standpoint. But I'm taking the cover. I'm good with the cover. I think it's like anywhere from 3 to 7 points. It's one score. They're going to lose by one score.
Yeah, that's basically what we're betting on.
Yeah,
One
lose by
score
one
game.
score.
I think it'd be like 24-17, something like that is what I see.
I can see something like that. I can also see a world where the Broncos, they've been throwing the ball really well to everyone. Like Bo's been getting the ball, he's been spreading the ball out, he's been running well. The Bills haven't contained running quarterbacks as much, and they also give up a lot of pass yards. They're like 25th in pass defense. So I can see, then it comes down to like red zone, which the Bills are a good red zone team. So on the defensive side, so the Broncos would have to take advantage of those, potential big plays that they can make and put them in the end zone in order to keep it close, which I think they can do a couple times. It has a chance there's a chance that some points are put up in this one. The Bills are super rested, super healthy. The offense looks good. They're going to it's an extra week of rest for Kincaid, who's kind of been banged up this year, and they haven't used him in a couple weeks. So I feel like they're probably going to use him. They might have some stuff for Coleman. Cooper's coming back. So
Yep.
he had a family thing, but he's back. He's going to play. And I feel like they've been hiding him on purpose. He hasn't been like he gets his like 3-4 catches, but like he was a wide receiver one not too long ago in a not so distant life.
He had one game where he had like 12 targets and went crazy, but other than that, it's been nothing. But like they've been hiding him, and too, like he's still building a rapport with Josh Allen. So I mean, like it takes time, but if I trust anyone to get in sync with someone quickly, one would be Patrick Mahomes. The next one's Josh Allen.
Yeah. Which is why he more so than almost anyone, him and Mahomes, what do they do better than almost everyone else? Spread the ball out to everyone. Like they have good relationships with everyone. They get the ball to all of the receivers. I think everyone has a role to play in this game, which is why I think the Bills are going to end up winning. The Broncos have a good enough defense to keep it close and keep it competitive. And I think they can sling the ball around a little bit too, but I like the cover. I think in the end it's a little too much and the Bills probably win this game, but I would not be surprised if this was the upset. Because first glance is like this is the one where it should be a sure thing that the Bills win this game. I would not be surprised. Also, the Bills have kind of struggled in wildcard rounds. They don't always make it to the AFC Championship. Like they've got a history of being eliminated early after good regular seasons.
That and like they always at least keep it close in that game. Like even I think when they made it to the AFC Championship, when they played the Chiefs in that one year, when they were in the wild card, it was still a close game. So I mean,
yeah. Okay. Anything else on this one?
Nope.
I'll have a prop on this one, I think, but we'll go over that later. Slide over to Packers and Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Packers and Eagles.
I think it's -5. Right, yeah, it spreads 5, and the over/under is at 45 on my end.
I got a -5.5, 45.5. So very similar. What do you have here?
I was debating between two. Both are on. I like is me not like betting on the Eagles, but thinking the Eagles will kind of score. So it was debating between the Eagles cover and the over. I'm going to go over 45. That's what I have written down. I can do 45.5. I don't really care. I think it goes over regardless. Because I mean, also the last time these two teams played, I think it was like 34-31. I do not like that the Packers are injured. That's what was drawing me towards spread. And then Jalen Hurts is obviously back. Might take him some time to get acclimated, but after that, I think Saquon's going to run all over him. AJ Brown is AJ Brown. Smith will be there. I think this is a high scoring game, so I have the over 45.
Over 45. Let me write that down real quick. Over. I didn't do couldn't commit to an over/under. Um, I I do think both teams should be able to score here. My issue is on the Packers side, and no Watson. Like, how do they create explosives? Because that's how you got to beat the Eagles. Like, you're
Yeah.
not gonna 1,000 cuts them. Like, you have to beat them deep. Like, they have to blow a coverage. Like, um, I just feel like that's a tougher task with your deep threat. Then it goes to, you got to hope you get. Well, the reason that they were successful against the Eagles the first time they played was Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
He had a big explosive run on like an end around, and like, I mean, he was the guy that kind of took over.
He had like 3
Um,
touchdowns in that game, didn't
he
he?
had like 3 touchdowns that game, and I thought he was like, I was almost like I was like requesting trades to try and get him on my team because I thought it was a sign of things to come. He had a couple other good games, but like, he was the real reason that game was as competitive as it was. So like, you have to get him involved. Like, he's got to be a focal point in the offense. Like, he's got to be your wide receiver one. Dobbs has to have a solid game. Like, all their route runners do very specific things well, but they're none of them are deep threats outside of Watson. So that's one component of your game that you're going to be missing, which I think is going to make it tougher to score points. Eagles are good against the run. I don't think Jacobs is going to have a lot of room to move. They also do a solid job of containing mobile quarterbacks. And Love has not been as mobile recently, but they do a good job of that. The Packers also, on the other hand, do a great job of containing mobile quarterbacks as well. So they're good from that standpoint. Their issue is they run a lot of light boxes. They play a little bit higher. They don't want to give up the big play. Like, Packers' big thing is like they're the bend but don't break. They're the bend but don't break team. They have a fantastic red zone defense. They don't give up explosives, but they will be run on. You can run on the Packers. They do a pretty good job because the linebackers move so well. They got some guys that can like really get up to the line and tackle. But I don't know of a better run game than what the Eagles have. So I feel like there's a disadvantage there. I'm very conflicted. These are only 1 unit plays for me. This is probably the game that I have the least amount of confidence in out of all of them. I am actually going to go playoff atmosphere. Packers cover at +6.5. I'll go +6. It's at -130, which is right on the fringe of
That's
what we
fine.
allow. So I'm going to go Packers +6. I think historically the things that they are good at defensively can limit the Eagles enough to keep it competitive. But I really wish the line was like 7.5. If it was 7.5, I would be like, okay, I can definitely see this. Because I think the number one thing that I am like hesitant about is like, how do the Packers score? Like, how do they? Because I think you have to score a little bit to keep up with them.
They scored 29 last time, and in that game as well, they didn't have Watson. So I mean, it's kind of they know, but
They have a
obviously
formula.
it's a very different Eagles defense this time around. That's the
And
one thing.
that game was in like South America.
Yeah, it was in
Like, this is
Brazil.
on the Eagles' home turf. Like, I almost like the Packers under more than anything else. I might audible. Hold on. Now that I'm talking to you, do we allow that? Can we like audible at the
Sure,
line of
go
scrimmage?
ahead. Yeah,
Hold
I
on.
mean,
Let me see what we got.
he's just checking where the safeties are, checking where the linebackers are, seeing the
Yeah,
coverage.
I see the coverage, and I think we have a matchup that we can exploit here.
It's just sometimes you get it wrong, so it's kind of a risk. But like,
Minus 20 and a, or it's a 20.5. Will, they can score 20. They
they can
can
score
score
20.
21.
Yeah,
They can score 21. I'm sticking with it. I'm gonna stick with the cover because if they score 21 and then they limit to like 27, then I push. I
yeah.
don't know if I don't know if the Eagles score 30. The Packers have a solid defense. They're a little banged up, but they have a solid defense, and the defense has been playing well recently. I'm gonna stick with it. Packers +6.5. But you can tell by my the lack of confidence. Don't pick mine. Pick
Mhm.
Will's because he was way more confident.
I'm actually fairly confident in this one for some odd reason. I think the over will hit.
Well, I said 27-21, and that's 46. So, or 20, that's 48. So yeah, you're good. You easily clear that. So yeah, the
Yep.
over should be good, and I probably push. Um, I think it's competitive. Dude, it's playoff football. Like, let's be competitive here. All right, two more. Go Commanders and Bucks.
Yep.
I can see this one being a light show. I hope it is. Like I don't think either team's going to run the ball particularly well. A couple good run defenses. The Bucks run defense, like it's like weird for me to say because they're in the NFC South, and the NFC South just like the defensively is never like the Bucks give up a ton of points, right? So like that's an NFC South defense right there. Did they give up points? Yes, they probably play in the NFC South, but the run defense is actually pretty solid. So they're gonna have to find the Commanders are gonna have to find some stuff on the edges. They're not gonna be able to run through the middle, so it's not gonna be a good Brian Robinson day. If you like Brian Robinson unders, and he's my favorite running back, Will knows this. I would lean under like Brian Robinson, not like a full. Depends on what his line's at. I actually didn't look at it because I didn't think about it, but now that I am thinking about it, it's probably a pretty good play.
Yeah,
They
Cam
won't be able
likes
to run.
He likes Brian so much that we told him when he drafted Brian instead of Bijan in the first round, he was like, I meant to do that. So yeah, he thought Brian Robinson is better than Bijan.
he's he's good, man. I
He's
don't want to
good,
hate
yeah.
that dude's.
Yeah.
He's a running back one. He's RB1. Um, Anyone that survives, that's why I like Pearsall. Anyone that survives a gunshot wound and comes back and plays pro football, they're good on my list. I'm a big Pearsall guy. I'm a big Brian Robinson guy. But I don't see success through the middle. Like I don't think they're not going to hit gaps. The linebacker plays pretty solid when it comes to the run. They've got some defensive tackles. They got a Vea who's nasty. So they're not
Gigantic.
gonna, yeah, they're not gonna run through the middle, but they could probably win on the edges. So they can find some success that way, which is why um, I think it's more of like a Daniels scramble kind of day. Make plays around the perimeter, than a traditional run, like, probably going to run some like, play action stuff, but I don't think you're going to win with the traditional run game. So I think the Commanders are going to like work around the edges. And there's some mismatches in the secondary. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, they've got some guys like I think Terry can have a big game. Like, I think they can put some points up. Um, Last time these guys played, I think the Bucks dominated them, if
Yeah, it was
I'm
like
not mistaken.
36, like 14 or something like that.
So there's a little bit part of me that's like, this is like a get back opportunity. I do not think the Commanders are the same team now that they were in like the first week of the season. I really think they have improved dramatically. Not just like at the quarterback position, but like everywhere. Even from like the coaching scheme perspective, like I think they have really improved as a team. So I definitely see it being more competitive. The Bucks' home field advantage is not as big as other teams. It's still an advantage. Anytime you play at home, it's still an advantage, but it's not to the point of like a Bills being at home or a Ravens being at home or something like that. So I actually think the Commanders keep this one competitive. So I'm going to take Commanders +3.
It's exactly what I have. If I was ranking
Nice.
these in like a list of which one I think is going to be like the upset of the big upset, this one would be 2 for me. I think the
This one's
Commanders
number
can.
2.
Yeah, the Commanders can easily
Is your
win
number
this
one the
game.
same as my number one?
Have we talked about the number? Have we talked
We
about the
have
game
not.
yet? Then
We have
yes,
not.
that's my number one.
All right,
Yeah,
good.
I think this. Yeah, I think this is number 2. I Jaden Daniels is a game breaker.
Yeah.
Straight up, he's gonna keep this game close. But also, I love Baker Mayfield. I think it was Micah Parsons who said it. He was like, that dude is not the most skilled, not the most talented, nothing. He just plays every game like it's his last,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Baker's
what Baker
always good.
does. I love Baker. And Baker has also been leading probably a top 3 offense all year with half the time it's his 2 best receivers are out. And then recently it's just been Mike Evans. Kate Otten was out. So it was freaking Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillan were the next 2 up.
Who's
Which
really come into his own, by the way. McMillan has
McMillan,
looked great.
he's looked great. But I mean, Baker's had to carry that offense at times and has looked really good. And I think if they had a better record he would be in MVP conversations because he's been that good this year. Or if he has this season last year, I think he's top 3. He may not win it over Lamar because Lamar was really good, but he had the stats from last year compared to this year are crazy. So yeah, I have Commanders +3. I do think the Buccaneers win this game, but I think it's because of like a Baker last second drive down 2 hits a game winning field goal to win.
I'm thinking like a 30-27. I think the offenses can go to work here.
Oh yeah,
I think it'd be a decent
thinking
scoring game.
Thinking like 28-27.
Yeah. All right. Actually, I might have the Commanders winning this game, like outright. I'm not gonna put it on the podcast, but like
I thought about it. 100%.
Sprinkle like a little sprinkle of money, a money line sprinkle, like the cover 3 guys say. Like I think I would take the Commanders. I
Definitely thought about it. Oh yeah,
I think it's worth it. It should be super competitive. I think they can win this game. All right, last one, the number 1 upset game, Vikings and Rams. So I'm going to go ahead and assume, based off, let me check the lines first. I'll assume we have Sim. So Vikings favored by 3. Over under is 47.5. I'm going to go ahead and assume you're taking the Rams +3.
I'm not actually.
What are you going to take?
In actual betting sense, I'm going to take the Rams money line. But in actual, and on this video, I went more deep dive. Am I gonna do +3? I had it at 2.5 on mine. That's why I was staying away from the spread. And my over under was a little different. I had it at 48. I'm going to take the under 48 because I think it's low scoring.
I like that.
Vikings, their defense is really good, and Darnold has not looked great recently. And these teams last faced, it was 30-20. So it was 2 points over this total, and both teams played ridiculously good, and it still barely hit. So I think, for some odd reason, I think this game is going to be. Remember that Jets Rams game where it was like rainy, but
the one that I thought was going to be like over 41 points scored, and it was like 19-9 or something.
Yeah, something like that. I see that. I think it's going to be like 21-13, 21-15, something like that.
I see that.
And it's just gonna I think I'm going into a little storylines here. I think with it having to be moved, all the stuff that's going on in LA, Rams are gonna win this game. And I do not see them beating them in a shootout, but I see them beating in a defensive game where the Vikings make some mistakes.
You nailed it, that last part. I think the Vikings. I try not to look at like previous week. Like I try not to be like week to week, and look at things from like a perspective of like, okay, what during the course of the season, like what has happened more times than not happened. But I cannot shake how bad Sam Darnold was in this game. This is in this game against the Lions. Like it was the brightest the lights have been the whole season. It was the most important game of the season, and he looked fearful. He looked like he'd never been in a big game before. It wasn't like you got to think about it. Like the Lions give up points to everybody. Everyone scores on the Lions. Everybody. Doesn't matter. 49ers scored on the Lions. You can go back to however many weeks you want to go back to. Everyone scored on the Lions. So I'm thinking, and like the over under for this game isn't like 56 or something crazy, and it's like,
it was ridiculous.
It's probably going to go over. I think it's probably going to go over because both teams should be able to score on each other, right? The Lions' offense is better than almost every other one, and their defense is worse than almost every other one. So and the Vikings can score points. So I'm thinking like this should be and it's one of my best plays. It's one of my best bets. It's like Darnold is at least going to throw the ball and they're going to put points up. He looked awful. Like he looked overmatched. He looked like he was not ready for the moment. And to me, it's not like mechanical or like, to me, it was like a mental block.
He missed a ton of reads.
There were looks where like there were big plays to be had. It wasn't like the Lions were playing this just all of a sudden lockdown defense that they hadn't done for the previous 17 weeks. Like the plays that they gave up were still there. He
Hmm.
just wasn't hitting dudes. And so a part of me is like, maybe he just needed to see it this one time and like be in this moment, and then he adjusts and he's better the next time. But I don't think that happens on a week to week basis. To me, that's like a year adjustment. That's like you got exposed because you've never been here before. You're going to get exposed one more time because this is arguably a bigger game than the one you had last week, against a better defense. Like people sleep on the Rams defense. They have a fantastic pass rush. They got a couple guys that can get there.
Their D line is
Um,
elite.
they got a couple guys that can make problems, and that was what gave him problems. Is like he didn't have a ton of time, and the second he didn't have a ton of time, he folded. I can see the exact same thing in this one. So I got the Rams +3. I am going to bet this one. I'm going to bet the Rams money line. Like I'm on DraftKings. I'm going and I'm betting. Sponsor us DraftKings. But I'm going, but I'm going Rams money line, and I'm going to take a shot at it because I think it's totally worth it, especially with them being at home too. And there's also this thing like whoever plays the Lions the week before loses the next game. Like there's like a stat where like teams that play the Lions their next game they're like 2-16 or something, 2-15.
It's like a super
So
physical game as well.
yeah, yeah. So there's just so much going against them. And I think McVay's done this before where it's like there's like would be distractions heading into games, like things that like would distract teams. Like think of all the injury history that they've had and like how like he gets them to rally with like I mean skeleton closet defenses and they still just play hard. So like he's gonna get the boys to show up. The cover's an easy call, but I'm also gonna bet the money line on it. I think that's all 6, right?
Yup.
Okay. Move on to props. We'll go back and forth. What is your first one?
First one, Derrick Henry over 98.5 rush yards. He had about 160 last time they played. So I'm gonna take that because I mean it's Derrick Henry, and I think they're just gonna pepper him. Like he could get 25 plus carries this game. I think because this game's probably gonna go under, and I think if the Ravens go up 21-7, 24-7, they're gonna run. Pittsburgh ain't scoring quickly. They're just gonna run the clock out. They're just gonna give the ball to Derrick Henry and let him go to work. So I got 98.5 over.
I'm going to start with my most simple one. I'm going to take a Kyron Williams touchdown. Anytime touchdown is at -130, which is right on the fringe for us. I think Corum like broke his forearm, so it's going to be Kyron and Ronnie Rivers is going to be his backup, and so that means Kyron's going to get like 26 carries.
Yeah.
So if Kyron's going to get all those looks, he's going to get the red zone touches too. I see him finding the end zone at least once. You could probably take a flyer on 2 touchdowns for Kyron and feel pretty good about it. I think he definitely finds the end zone one time.
My next one, the last time the Rams and the Vikings played, Puka had 2 carries for 5 yards. And the Vikings give up about 5 yards a carry to wide receivers. Puka's rush line is at 1.5. I know I've done these all year, and I'm 1-1 on them. But also, I swear there was like 4 times I would watch the game, and there'd be like 3 plays on a drive where Puka would go on a jet sweep, like every time, and it works. He's a big guy and he's fast, and all I need is 2 yards. So I'm gonna take Puka over 1.5 rush yards.
I just believe you. You know, anytime you have one of these like receiver rushing yard overs, like I'm just gonna believe you.
Every time I
I have
do
no
it, it's
reason to
science
doubt you.
approved. It's
Yeah,
science.
it's science approved, so you
I look
can't.
at stats for it. I don't just like go into it and be like, oh, he's gonna get 2 yards. No, I look at what teams are bad against wide receiver rushing for some odd reason.
I like it. I'm gonna put it down. I'm putting it in. All right, so my second one, I'm gonna go to the Ravens Steelers game, and I'm gonna take Mark Andrews 4 or more receptions. No Zay Flowers, so I think that leads to like Joey Porter's probably gonna cover Rashad, which is he's gonna lock him down. Joey Porter's elite, and or Bateman like establishes himself as like a real life wide receiver one. It's one or the other. I lean towards Joey Porter. Like I just think he's got the matchup advantage there. Dante Jackson is back, so he's going to be playing DB on the other side, so he might get matched up with Bateman as well, and he's solid. Like, as long as he's healthy, he's good too. So that kind of leaves the advantages in the passing game in the middle of the field. So I think Mark Andrews is going to have some opportunities. The Steelers are not elite at covering tight ends; they're okay at it. But I think Mark Andrews is now like the number one option in my mind. If unless Bateman can find a way to win his matchups, to me, it's Mark Andrews is going to be like the guy that, the security blanket, if you will. I don't know what it means from a yards perspective, but I think he probably gets 7 or 8 targets. So if he secures half of them, then we're going to win some money. So Mark Andrews, 4 receptions.
We go. Kind of a sneaky one too that I just thought of in that one because you just reminded me that Zay's out. Don't mind Justice Hill as also as a safety blanket out of the backfield.
Yep. Third down stuff. Like he's like the receiving back.
I
They
don't.
like
Yeah,
using him in big games too.
I don't know the lines, but look at maybe potential him. My last
That's
one
good.
is Jaden Daniels over 31.5 pass attempts. Like Cam said, don't think they're going to be able to run the ball that well. That leads to Jaden Daniels having to throw it a lot. And I mean, this game is going to be high scoring in my opinion, which means and the Buccaneers are going to score. So he's either going to have to throw a lot to catch up or throw a lot to keep up. So I have Jaden Daniels over 31.5.
Who was your first one again?
Derrick Henry over 98.5 rush yards.
That's right. Henry over 98.5 rush. All right, my last one. This one's a little bit of a deep cut. Not that bad. I'm gonna go Rachaad White over 10.5 receiving yards. If you go back to their first game where they played each other, Rachaad White absolutely took this game over. Now, this was before Bucky Irvin established himself as the guy. But I think out of the backfield, they haven't used him in a couple weeks, and I think it's because they want to hide some stuff that's on tape, remembering that he had a matchup advantage against what the Commanders brought to the table. So, and 10.5 is super. That's one catch, dude. It's one catch on a 3rd and 18 that goes for 15 yards, and they have to punt the ball away. So, I think that's a pretty low line. Oops, I lost a man down. But I'm gonna go with Rachaad White over 10.5 receiving.
Nice. Touchdowns now?
Just enter the data real quick. Over 10.5. You want to do touchdown?
Let's do it. My last one is a guy who actually just got charged with the DUI. He's going to play, though. He's going to play. And he scored 2 touchdowns the last time these teams did play. I'm going to take Demarcus Robinson to score at plus 350. He quietly, very quietly, led the Rams in receiving touchdowns. Was it because Puka and Cooper Kupp got hurt for a decent amount of the season? Yes. But he led the team. So I'm going to go Demarcus Robinson plus 350.
All right. I had a debate. I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid. He's at plus 240. It's fluctuated a couple times. So if you get it anywhere over plus 200, run with it. It's another guy. I really think they've been hiding some stuff. I think they're hiding some stuff with Cooper. But I think they're hiding some stuff with Kincaid too. You can see they're using Shakir a little bit less, the Bills are. And I think the Bills have a good advantage. Broncos struggle against running backs and tight ends in coverage. So you could go with a Cook too, but a Cook anytime touchdown is not going to, the value isn't there compared to, so I'm going to go with the tight end. Thought about Knox, but I really think they want to get Kincaid going. Getting Kincaid going in the playoffs is vital for them making a deep run. That's a huge part of their game, because a lot of the mismatches they face are in tight ends in coverage, especially this first game coming up. Value's pretty good for it, and I also think Kincaid's due. Kind of took a step back this year, but injuries kind of hurt him. But he's healthy now, has looked better. I think he's going to score a touchdown. Do you have anything else before we sign off here?
Nope, I don't think so. Just follow the Twitter. We'll have an anytime touchdown parlay going for Wildcard weekend, and probably some other parlays for each day or something like that. We'll probably have something also tonight for the Texas-Ohio State game. So Excited for this weekend though. A lot of football.
Yeah, a lot of football. There's Call of Duty as well, so I'm gonna be locking into that.
I think that's back in 26 minutes, something like that. So
yeah, oh yeah, I'm already, the plays are already in.
Oh,
I might put a little something on the gram either today or tomorrow for that. Mix it in with the football plays. I'll be honest with you. I'm excited, but it's key. Diversify your funds. It's like don't just be a football guy. Like you got to find these other sports, these other niches where you think you might have edges on. And Call of Duty just happens to be one of them. Call it what you will. Call me a nerd. I don't care. I'm a nerd that makes money betting on esports.
yeah.
So I mean that's gonna do it, I guess. Longer episode for us, but covered all 6 games. We'll probably do the same thing as long as the games line up the same way and that no one plays on Friday or anything next week.
I don't think so, no.
Probably do it the same way next Friday. Should be 4 matchups. So we'll go through all 4 matchups. Do kind of the same deal. We will be back. All of us will be back next Wednesday to recap the semifinal games and to preview the college football championship. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.